Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Gossips 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In Los Angeles, beneath the glittering chandeliers of the Forrester estate, a strange calm shivered through the air, one that didn't belong to celebration, but to destiny, fear, hope, memory, and the ghosts of every love triangle the bold and the beautiful had ever carved into history. As invited guests took their seats for what had been promised to be a perfect wedding. Bill Spencer marrying Katie Logan, the woman he claimed to have loved for longer than any vow, any storm, any heartbreak could touch, and Katie, radiant, trembling, beautiful, terrified, walking toward the moment she believed she had waited her whole life for, the chance to marry the man she wanted to believe had finally changed, finally understood her value, finally chosen her over ego, greed, reckless desires, and the power-chasing illusions that had destroyed them more than once, even as a far darker truth pulsed beneath every heartbeat inside her chest, one she had tried for weeks to silence. Carter Walton, the man she never meant to fall for, the man who stood outside the wedding doors wrestling with a soul-shattering decision, the man whose heart had caught hers when it shattered under the weight of past betrayals, had returned from her life like thunder. Katie didn't know he was coming, not yet. And she didn't know the truth of what he intended to do when he arrived, whether to confess his love or destroy her future to prove hers wasn't real. But fate was turning every second into a countdown toward emotional demolition. Inside, the aisle smelled of white roses and champagne, laughter swelling through rows of Forrester, Logan, Spencer, Buckingham, and Finnegan guests who whispered theories about the couple, some believing Katie was making the smartest decision of her life, others whispering that Bill could never truly be faithful to one woman, that Brooke would always live like a ghost inside his bloodstream, that he would always want what he couldn't have, that he would never be satisfied without chaos. Brooke herself sat in the first row, squeezing Hope's hand beneath folded programs, her heart a chaotic mixture of nostalgia, guilt, and the strange ache of watching a man she had loved, truly loved, marry her younger sister again, while Ridge stood behind her chair in tense silence, jaw tight, because even he knew the emotional aftershocks that would ignite if this wedding collapsed under truth. Meanwhile, Will Spencer, older now, taller, thoughtful and torn, shifted nervously at the altar. He wanted his parents happy, but something gnawed at him. Memories, voices, secrets Katie had whispered about Carter late at night when she thought Will was asleep, about how Carter had shown her tenderness and respect in ways Bill never had. Will stared at his father, who smiled confidently, almost smugly, as if destiny itself bent to serve him, as if nothing could challenge his control of the world. But just outside the heavy carved double doors, Carter stood frozen, pulse racing, palms shaking, knowing that once he stepped inside, he might destroy Katie's future, Bill's pride, Will's stability, and his own soul, yet unable to turn away because love had become louder than reason. He had promised Katie months ago he would leave her alone if she wanted Bill back. But the truth was she had never asked him to walk away. She had just stopped him from running toward her, afraid of the emotional firestorm waiting between them. A sudden wind rattled the door hinges and inside, Ridge felt something shift, exchanging a knowing glance with Steffi, who arched an eyebrow because weddings in this family never ended quietly. Finn, seated beside her, whispered, "Something's wrong." She nodded. "Something's coming." Then the music began. Katie whispered to Donna backstage, voice trembling, "I want this, right?" Donna squeezed her hands, but hesitated for a fraction of a second. Katie's eyes widened, that hesitation sliced her with doubt, and she remembered Carter's mouth against hers, his voice gentle, reverent. "You deserve a man who sees your soul, Katie." But she pushed the memory away, lifted her chin, and prepared to walk. Behind the estate, paparazzi lenses glittered like insects as Bill, at the altar, whispered to Wyatt, "After today, nothing can break us." Unaware that Carter, who had run from commitment for years, was about to run straight through his future like a wrecking ball. As Katie walked down the aisle, every footstep shook through Carter's chest. Watching through a crack in the doors, he saw love in her eyes, but he also saw fear, uncertainty, longing for something real, not rehearsed, not rebuilt, not forced by history. Bill reached to take her hand, and just as the minister asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" Carter pushed the doors open with a thunderous crash that made the guests gasp. The room erupted like a bomb. Katie froze mid-step, eyes widening at the sight of Carter standing before her, breathless in a fitted black suit, sweat glistening beneath panic and passion. Brooke whispered, Oh my God. Bill's face turned bloodless. Ridge smirked despite himself. Chaos, his oldest companion, had arrived early. Carter's voice shook the entire room. Katie, don't do this. The minister stepped back. Bill barked. Get out. Guests leaned forward like wolves scenting blood. Will whispered a shocked. Dad. Quinn smirked with wicked delight. Katie stared at Carter, lips trembling, whispering his name like a question. Carter. But Carter shook his head. No. Listen to me. I can't let you do this. Not to yourself. Not to your heart. Not when you don't love him the way you are pretending you do. Bill lunged forward, voice roaring through the hall. Who the hell do you think you are? You had your chance and you walked away like a coward. Carter shouted back. Because she asked me to. Not because I wanted to. Gasps exploded around the room. Katie's knees buckled. Donna whispered to Brooke. I knew it. Carter continued. Katie, you told me you marry out of fear. That Bill would hate you, that the world would call you foolish, that you didn't deserve better. But you do deserve better. Tears streamed down Katie's cheeks. Bill's rage shook his voice. This is manipulation. You don't love her. You love ruining lives. Carter stepped closer, eyes locked solely on Katie. If you want Bill, I'll walk away forever. But if you love me, say it. The room fell into suffocating silence. Katie whispered. I don't know. Bill staggered. The entire Logan family froze. Carter whispered again. Then don't marry him. Bill grabbed Katie's arm. This wedding continues. Brooke stood up. No. Katie needs to speak. Katie looked between the men, the one she loved once, and the one she wasn't meant to love but did anyway, and her voice broke into the room. Bill, I love you for what we were. But I don't trust what we would be. Bill whispered. I changed. Katie shook her head, tears falling. You changed for now. Then she turned toward Carter. But you made me believe in myself. Whispers erupted like lightning. Bill's voice cracked. Are you ending this? Katie took a breath that changed her future. I'm choosing peace. The minister slowly closed his book. The wedding ended. Not with vows but with truth. Bill shattered, swearing revenge. Will cried confused. Katie walked to Carter. He opened his hand. She took it. The room erupted with camera flashes, screams, scandals, chaos, and new storylines exploding like fireworks across Los Angeles, as Bill Spencer vowed the world would pay for humiliating him, especially Carter Walton, who now held the woman Bill believed belonged to him forever. The silence that followed Katie's choice rippled through the Forrester courtyard like an earthquake, leaving every soul in stunned paralysis, unable to fully comprehend how something so planned, polished, and expected had exploded into absolute chaos in less than a minute. And as the wedding arch wilted under the heavy California breeze, Bill Spencer stood frozen in front of the collapsing fantasy he had told himself was destiny, the dream he had promised himself and the world would prove he was a new man, only to watch the woman he thought he owned walk straight into the future with another man. His veins burned with humiliation, fury, heartbreak, and betrayal, emotions so scorching he felt as if his entire identity shattered beneath the pressure of 100 camera lenses capturing every twitch of his jaw, every tremble in his hands, every breath that sounded like a growl. Carter sensed the storm building in Bill, but he tightened his grip around Katie's fingers, silently grounding her shaking body. Unable to keep his heart from pounding so loudly, he wondered if everyone could hear it echo. Katie, trembling, both terrified and liberated, looked up at him and saw truth. She had changed the course of the Spencer, Logan, and Forrester world in less than 30 seconds, and the weight of that reality nearly knocked her to the ground. Brooke stared at her sister, shocked, horrified, and oddly proud, because Katie had never walked away from Bill like this before. Every previous breakup between them had ended in tears, in longing, in excuses, in giving him every final inch of power. But today Katie Logan had chosen herself, chosen love not born from fear or history or obligation but from respect and connection. And Brooke knew that step was enormous, seismic, and dangerous. Ridge watched his ex-wife carefully, noticing the pain behind Brooke's eyes, curious whether the decision Katie made would resurrect old feelings between Brooke and Bill. Feelings Ridge could already see flickering in Brooke's pupils as she glanced toward Bill like a woman remembering memories she had buried under guilt. Will Spencer, their son, stood still inside the shattered outline of the life he believed he could depend on. At 19 years old he had thought his parents finally figured out how to love without exploding, how to work without collapsing, how to speak honestly. But now the world felt like it had suddenly tilted under his feet, and the realization that his mother chose Carter over his father created a new storm inside his chest. A storm of confusion, betrayal, love, guilt, grief, pride, heartbreak, and desperation to understand who he was supposed to love or defend. He whispered, voice cracking, "Mom!" Katie turned, heartbreaking at the tremor inside his tone, whispering, we will talk, I promise." But Will shook his head, tears burning down his cheeks. "You promised me he was safe to love again." Ridge moved toward the boy, ready to steady him if he fell, but Bill stepped forward too quickly, grabbing Will by the shoulder like a man anchoring himself to the one piece of family he had left, voice tight with anguish as he hissed, "Your mother made a mistake." The words cut Katie, and Carter stepped forward defensively, voice low. "Don't do that. Don't turn your son against his mother." Bill jerked back, rage twisting his expression. "You stay away from him. You stay away from my family, both of them." Katie's heart clenched at the phrasing. Not my wife, not my love, not my partner, but my property. And suddenly the decision she made felt even more correct. Around the room voices began to rise, guests whispering like flames catching dry wood, gossip spreading faster than wildfire. Quinn, arms folded, smirk wicked, leaned toward Wyatt and muttered, "History repeats itself, darling. Bill loses every time he thinks he owns love." Wyatt shot her a glare, because he saw agony in his father's eyes, and though Wyatt remembered every ugly thing Bill had done, there was something tragic about watching the man finally fall apart. Meanwhile, Steffi crossed her arms and whispered to Finn, "This is just the beginning," to which Finn replied, "You think Bill will let Katie go?" Steffi scoffed, eyes sharp. "Bill treats love like war. He never loses quietly." Eric Forrester, seated in his wheelchair, stared up at the drama with his wise old eyes, whispering to Donna, "Another wedding ruined. Some things never change." Donna squeezed his hand, eyes still glassy, watching her sister's life rewrite itself in real time. The minister quietly slipped away, relieved to escape the tension, while reporters outside were already updating headlines. Carter Walton destroys Bill and Katie wedding. Love triangle explodes. Paparazzi flashes popped through windows like lightning, and security began chasing trespassing photographers off the property. Everything was chaos except for Carter and Katie, because as the world roared around them, the two shared a silent exchange, one full of trembling breath and unspoken understanding. Their story had just begun. Bill stepped forward, his voice suddenly low, deathly calm, the kind of calm that terrified everyone who knew him best. "Do you love him?" Katie held her breath. Ridge whispered, "Here it comes." Brooke whispered, "Katie, think carefully." But Katie did not hesitate, not anymore. She lifted her chin, met Bill's eyes and said, "Yes, I love him." The room gasped. Hope covered her mouth. Donna burst into tears, and Will staggered backward like someone had shoved a fist into his stomach. Bill's lip curled, voice snapping into brutality. "Then you never loved me." Katie shook her head, sobbing, "I always loved you. But love isn't enough when trust is gone." Bill spat. "You're weak." Carter growled, stepping forward. "Don't talk to her like that." Bill's fists clenched, and the only reason he didn't swing was because Ridge leapt between them. "Bill, enough." Brooke stood slowly, voice trembling as she said, "Katie, are you sure? This life isn't easy. Choosing the man who isn't safe, who isn't proven, who hasn't shown you long-term love, it's terrifying." Katie whispered, "I lived a lifetime loving safety. It almost killed me." Brooke's eyes softened into reluctant admiration. Ridge nodded. Donna cried openly. Then Bill's voice exploded, echoing through every wall. "Get out of my sight." Carter stayed frozen. "I said get out." Carter didn't move, not until Katie gave him the tiniest nod, and then he gently led her away from the altar, both walking through that sea of faces, each step heavier than the last. That walk felt endless, through the broken roses, torn tools, spilled champagne, ruined perfection, shattered promises, and dozens of disappointed dreams. And yet, through it all, Katie's hand never left Carter's. When the doors closed behind them, the entire wedding party erupted into noise. Brooke demanding answers, Ridge mediating chaos, Paris gasping dramatically, Zend whispering plot ideas for the next Forrester fashion line, because business never slept, Quinn texting gossip to Shauna, Liam calling Hope to sit down and breathe, Steffi whispering that Bill was about to explode into criminal behavior again, and Eric asking Donna if she believed love at this age still had meaning. Inside the bridal suite, Carter held Katie while she shook, both laughing and crying simultaneously with exhausted adrenaline. She whispered, "I can't believe what I just did." Carter cupped her face. "You did what your soul begged you to." Katie laughed through tears. "I ruined my wedding." Carter answered, "You saved your life." Meanwhile downstairs Bill spiraled. Wyatt approached gently, voice steady. "Dad, breathe." Bill whispered, "She humiliated me." Ridge muttered, "Welcome to consequences." Bill snapped, "Stay the hell away from this." Brooke reached toward Bill, voice cracking, "Don't attack her. She loves you." Bill hissed, "Not enough." But when Brooke gently touched his cheek, reminding him of 1,000 memories, something primal and old flickered between them. An ember Ridge noticed instantly, one that made his chest tighten with jealousy and a furious "not this again" ache. Then Bill stormed out of the venue, face stone, eyes dead, and Will ran after him. The door slammed behind father and son, and the echo of that slam promised a new war. Outside, Katie froze. She saw Bill standing by the fountain with Will, their silhouettes etched in pain. Will shook his head at his mother, then followed Bill toward the limo. Katie whispered, "I lost him," but Carter pulled her close, whispering, "Not forever." Bill's limo peeled down the driveway. Inside, reporters screamed questions. "Carter, are you sleeping with Katie?" "Katie, why humiliate Bill? Is this revenge for Brooke?" Katie clung to Carter to stay upright, whispering, "I don't know how to breathe under this." But Carter smiled sadly. "Then let me breathe with you." And together they walked into a future no one was prepared for. Because Bill Spencer, humiliated billionaire, broken groom, father full of fury, was already planning war. He would destroy Carter. He would reclaim Katie. He would rewrite destiny. And the bold and the beautiful world would never be the same. The hours after the wedding imploded turned Los Angeles into a pressure chamber of gossip, speculation, heartbreak, and emotional aftershocks that pulsed from the Forrester courtyard all the way to Spencer Publications, Forrester Creations, Illinois Giardino, the Cliff House, and the Malibu Beach homes where Logan memories clung to salt air. And as Katie and Carter drove away in silence, the city seemed to breathe differently, the world shifting beneath their feet, pulling them into a reality far more complicated than romance or rebellion. It was a collision of history, families, and power. Katie stared out the window, watching palm trees blur into streaks of green and shadow while her mind replayed every second of the ceremony she destroyed. Bill's stunned face, Will's trembling voice, Brooke's conflicted tears, Ridge's almost smirking smirk, Wyatt's shock, Liam's stunned whisper, Quinn's wicked delight, Eric's sad wisdom, Steffi's whispered prophecies, and Carter's voice calling out to her before the vows fell apart. Carter, gripping the steering wheel hard enough to turn his knuckles white, fought the urge to speak, sensing that Katie needed silence, not soothing, not yet. She remained frozen until he pulled into the underground parking garage of a Beverly Hills hotel, and when he parked, she whispered the first words she had spoken since leaving the wedding. "I can't believe how fast everything shattered." Carter turned to her, voice quiet, steady. "Things don't shatter unless they were cracked already." Katie closed her eyes, feeling the weight of truth. She whispered, "Will hates me," and Carter shook his head instantly. "No, Will is hurting. Hurt speaks before love has a chance." Katie nodded slowly, but tears streamed anyway. Meanwhile, at Spencer Publications, Bill stormed into his office like thunder, shoving open the doors so hard they slammed against the walls. Every employee within range went silent, terrified, because Bill Spencer's grief was louder than most men's rage, and right now both were roaring inside him. Wyatt and Liam followed behind him like shadows, desperate to stop him from destroying something or someone. The moment Bill sat behind his desk, he grabbed the decanter of scotch and poured 4 fingers worth, then 5, then 6. Wyatt stepped forward. "Dad, don't do this. Drinking isn't going to..." Bill snapped. "Don't finish that sentence." His voice was a razor's edge. Liam whispered, "We need to call Will. He's alone." Bill's eyes lifted, burning, haunted. "He's not alone. He has me." His mother made that clear. Wyatt exchanged a devastated look with Liam, both realizing Bill meant to cut Katie out entirely.